Shalom, this is GMS Holland Sit Downs coming back with a lesson. Want to give all praises, glory, and the highest honor to Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai Ba'Hashem Kadash. Double honors to the elder apostle of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the elect out there that's spreading this word in sincerity and in truth all over the four corners of the earth. Gone. This is gonna be a different type of lesson. It's gonna be called biblical history. You know, going into basically the biblical knowledge, which is the knowledge that our forefathers had. Basically, I'm gonna go into that to show you like what type of knowledge there already was back in those days, because these devils always want to say that civilization started with the Greeks, this and this and that. But all of that is nonsense, man. Because even in Egypt, where we were, if we read the book of Exodus, we was the master builders in Egypt, man. We was building brick and stones, and we was building houses. Now, when I was in Egypt, I was in this temple, and this temple was in the middle of the desert. But still, this temple was cool. When you went inside of this temple, it was very cool, because there was the way the building was built was created a natural air conditioning. So the architecture of the building created a natural air conditioner. So no motors, no nothing that basically needs electricity and defiles the whole earth. Just a construction as a house that basically filters the air and gives a natural air conditioning. Now, guess where this knowledge came from? This knowledge came from the lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Why? Because civilization really started with Ur of the Chaldees, man. Civilization really started over there. Because what happened was, when Noah, his sons, went to travel and went to inhabit the earth, Shem and Ham, they traveled south. And Shem located himself around the region of Mesopotamia, which is Ur of the Chaldees. And that's where Abraham eventually stationed himself. That's why the scriptures speak about Abraham, that Abraham is of Ur of the Chaldees. That's where all this knowledge was at. That's where people came to for knowledge. Because what is a Chaldee? A Chaldee is basically a sorcerer, man, or a Chaldee, however you call it. Ur of the Chaldees, I think. Let me look it up real quick. Yeah, Salaki, I went to check it out real quick. It's actually Chaldee. So it's actually Ur of the Chaldeans. Ur of the Chaldeans. But, it's a matter of pronunciation. It's no big deal. So Abraham came from that region, Ur of the Chaldeans. And the Chaldeans, they were basically sorcerers, which they was worshiping all kinds of entities and idols. But they had knowledge, and Abraham grew up over there because his father was also worshiping these idols, like it refers to in the book of Joshua. Let me see if I can pull it up. Joshua chapter 24. Joshua chapter 24. Joshua chapter 24, verse 2. And Joshua said unto all the people, thus said Yahweh the Most High of Israel, your fathers dwelt on the other side of the flood in the old time, even Terah, the father of Abraham, and the father of Nachor, and they served other gods. You see? So Terah, Salakia. I was thinking a bit. So Terah, he was worshiping other gods, referring to this scripture. And I took your father Abraham from the other side of the flood and led him throughout all the land of Canaan and multiplied his seed and gave him Isaac. Now, when we go to Genesis chapter 10, I believe. When we go to Genesis chapter 10, or it's Genesis chapter 11, it's lucky. Go to Genesis chapter 11. It says Genesis 11, verse 24, and Nahor lived 29 years and begat Terah. So that's the Terah that is talking about, the father of Abraham. And begat sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram, which Abram is the name prior that Abraham prior to when he was called Abraham. So first his name was Abram, which Abram is Abaram. Abba is father and Ram is exalted. So his name first was exalted father. Then it became Abraham. So verse 27, now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begat Abram, Slakia, Nahor, and Haran begat Lot. Now going down, it doesn't say it here. 11 and 28. I thought it was there. Oh, Slakia. Okay, and Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity, in Ur of the Chaldees. And Abram and Nahor took them wives, and the name of Abram, his wife, was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, and the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Ishkar. So eventually, so that's the land of the nativity. That's where Abraham grew up, together with Nahor, together with Haran, together with Lot and his wife. But eventually, they traveled towards the land of Canaan. But everything started over there, man, because that's where the civilization started to grow. Okay, which is the region of Mesopotamia, which is Ur. So, going back to my point, Ur of the Chaldeans is basically where civilization started, because Esau wants to claim that civilization started with their rulership. No, that's not true. Wickedness, extreme wickedness, got multiplied by the beginning of his civilization, according to First Maccabees chapter 1. When these Edomites, these Grecians, came into rulership, wickedness multiplied upon the earth exceedingly, man. But I want to touch on this subject, which is biblical knowledge, man. The knowledge that our forefathers had, and the thing that Abraham did with this tree. So this is Genesis. First I point out this, Genesis 21 and 8. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. It's lucky, the same day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. So Ishmael was mocking Sarah. Okay, wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bond woman and her son, for the son of this bond woman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. And the Most High said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy bondwoman, and all that Sarah had said unto thee, hearken unto her voice, for in Isaac shall thy seed be called, and also of the son of the bondwoman I will make a nation, because he is thy seed. So only there, that's the only reason that Ishmael is so prosperous now, man. Having millions upon millions upon trillions, man. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, let me just read the whole thing. Verse 14. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And this this is another thing, man. This is what happens. This is reality. Like all this shit that Esau done put up, like the child alimony and the this and the that and the payment here and the payment there and the partner alimony. All this thing is all bullshit, man. Because if you look back in our history, like the scripture says, and the scriptures basically order you to do in Job chapter 8 verse 8, look up the ways of our fathers and learn. That's what we have to do, man. We have to look up the history and understand how things went down back in the days, man. This woman was cast out of the house with only a bottle of water and some bread. Go figure it out. But nowadays, what happened, man? When you divorce a woman, or when you break up, now you're in deep shit, man. Because she's gonna require all kinds of things of you, man. And of course, back in the days when we had our wives, being a virgin, we also had to pay a lot of money to the father. We had to give the father 50 shekels of silver, or maybe 100 shekels of silver. I don't know from the top of my head. I think 100 shekels of silver. 50 shekels of silver was when you rape a female and basically take her virginity. You have to give the father 50 shekels of silver. But I believe if you depart from her because you don't like her no more, and the father has the token of virginity, which is a white cloth with blood on it, and then then you have to give the father 100 shekels of silver. But this was a bondwoman. She was basically a slave. She just got put out the house with a little bit of bread and some water for the child too. And they wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba, verse 15. And the water was spent in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. Now, this shrub, if you look up the word shrub, it says shayach, bush, plant, shrub. A bush, which that bush is not just some kind of bush. It's actually the tamarisk tree, which looks like a bush but is really a tree. The tamarisk tree, which becomes clear when also Abraham went to plant the tamarisk tree, which we can find over here. So it says here, when Abraham was digging the wells, verse 25, and Abraham reproved Abimelech because of a well of water which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. So there was beef going on constantly about these wells that Abraham dug, man. They wanted to take them because why? You can water your cattle. You can wash your clothes. You can get water for cooking, because that's also what the Egyptians did, man. When Moses turned the water into blood, what did the Egyptians do? Let me grab that real quick. I think it's chapter 5. Blood. Let me type in blood and go to Exodus. Oh, it's Exodus chapter 4. If they will not believe, yeah, okay. And the water river shall become blood. So this is the order from the Heavenly Father. But I'm looking for the part where it happened. Maybe it's 7. Maybe it's 7 then. I didn't realize already. Gone. It's 7. I didn't realize I already read to 7. I was reading this yesterday. So this is Exodus chapter 7 verse 17. Thus said Yahweh, in this thou shalt know that I am Yahweh. Behold, I will smite the rod that is in mine hand upon the waters which are in the river, and they shall be turned into blood. And the fish that is in the river shall die, and the river shall stink, and the Egyptians shall loathe to drink of the water of the river, which means loathe, which means to abhor, meaning they don't want to drink of it, because they be like, hey, we're gonna drink pure blood, man. It says la'ah, which is also no. La'ah means no in the Hebrew, and it says to be wary, be grieved, offended, to be very impatient, to be tried of something, to weary, make weary, exhaust, to be wearied. You know, so they're not really, they're gonna be like, man, we need our water, you know. They're gonna be loaded, they're gonna be wearied. Okay, so eventually, verse 19, and Yahweh spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, take thy rod and stretch out thine hand upon the waters of Egypt, upon their streams, upon their rivers, and upon their ponds, and upon all their pools of water, that they may become blood, and that there may be blood throughout all the land of Egypt, both in vessels and in wooden vessels of stone. Okay, let me go to the point, man, because... Okay, verse 21. And the fish that was in the river died, and the river stank, and the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river, and there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. And the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantments, and Pharaoh's heart was hardened, neither did he hearken unto them, as Yahweh had said. And Pharaoh turned and went into his house, neither did he set his heart to this also. And the Egyptians digged round about the river for water to drink, for they could not drink of the water of the river. So guess what? Who was digging wells in the beginning? Because that's what they are doing now. They are digging wells around the river, because the river is full of blood. So the Egyptians, they still needed water, so they started digging for water around the wells, around the river. They created wells, which that knowledge came from Abraham, because Abraham is the first one that started to dig wells, you know, to be able to have water, you know, nourishment. What are the main ingredients of life, man? Oxygen, a roof over your head, and water, man, and food. You need oxygen, water, food, and a roof over your head, man. Basically a place to sleep. So that knowledge came from Abraham. Now going back and seeing and observing the knowledge that Abraham added unto those having the understanding of and the importance of digging these wells, man. Genesis 21:32. Thus they made a covenant, and at Beersheba, then Abimelech rose up and Pichol, the chief captain of his host, and they returned into the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a grove in Beersheba, and called there on the name of Yahweh, the everlasting power. And Abraham sojourned in the Philistines' land many days, which is the land of Canaan. Okay, now I was like, grove. Abraham planted a grove. So the word for grove here is ashal, and it says a tamarisk tree. It says a tamarisk tree. So I went to dig into what the tamarisk tree really is and what it does, and I was wondering why Abraham planted that tamarisk tree by the well. Now you have to picture the location of the well is in the middle of the sun. You know, it's very hot. Think about it, man. The land of Canaan, which is the land of Israel, is a very hot region, man. You know, I've been in that region many times, and it can become 45 degrees in the daytime, man. 45 degrees. So that's why it also says in the Bible a lot of times in the heat of the day. Let me see if I can pull that up. Heat day. Gone. This is Genesis 18, verse 1. And Yahweh appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. Let's see if we can look up what time that is in the heat of the day. I don't think. No, it just says heat, hot of the day. Yeah, one daytime, yeah. So the heat of the day is when the sun is at its highest peak, you know, which is around 2, 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, really 2 o'clock, 1 or 2 o'clock, between 1 and 3 o'clock. Let me just put it like that. That's the heat of the day. Okay, now, when you have your cattle out there, when you have your labor, because from Adam, the Most High told us, like, hey, you're gonna have to work, man. You're gonna have to work, and in the sweat, you're gonna labor, man, and you're gonna return back to the dust from when she came, because the Most High didn't create man to die in the first place. The Most High created man to be immortal, but when the sin was fulfilled, man was supposed to die, man. Every man is supposed to die. When you are born, you die. Later on, you die. You know, so Abraham had a certain knowledge of plants too. You know, which nowadays Esau think he's so damn wise and he knows everything. But back in those days, we already knew these things, man. We already had the knowledge. Abraham already passed knowledge on to the people. And guess what? They want to talk about Egypt. Egypt was so deep, and they had so much knowledge. But who grew up in the nation in Egypt? Who grew up in Egypt? The scriptures speak about that the Most High built up Egypt only to destroy it, man. Because prior to Joseph coming into the land of Egypt, it was nothing, man. It was absolutely nothing. Joseph made Egypt great. And after that, Jacob and his children came into the land of Israel. And when they multiplied, the Egyptians was like, hey, got to put a stop to this, because the Egyptians, because the Israelites are more than us, man. Like it says in Exodus. More. Gone. This is Exodus chapter 1, verse 9. Let me start at 8. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph, because Joseph was a governor over Egypt. The Pharaoh said that Joseph in his ways is equal unto Pharaoh, man. Now think about it, man. This was the king of Egypt, and he called an Israelite that came out of prison, he called him his equal. So that shows you that hierarchy wasn't really there yet. Because eventually when Egypt grew, that hierarchy was really there, man. You couldn't just talk to the Pharaoh like that and you wouldn't be called equal just like that, man. Because if you go into the history of Egypt, you're gonna find out that certain people was not even allowed to carry the boat of the Pharaoh into the water, man, because they was not on their level. Okay, so Egypt wasn't big back then yet. So the scripture also speaks about, for this cause the Most High chose made Egypt great, that he might show his power in it. Anyway, it says, verse 9, and he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come, let us deal wisely with them, and lest they multiply. And it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. So what did they start to do? They started to kill off the Israelites, man. They started to kill the Israelites, murder, better yet, the Israelites, man. Romans chapter 9 verse 17. For the scripture said unto Pharaoh, even for this same purpose have I raised thee up, that I might show my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. You see, so the only reason that Egypt became great like that is because the Most High wanted to show his power in that nation. So when you want to show that you are a strong man, you're going to challenge the biggest guy, man. That's why in the UFC you always see that when a new cat comes up and he grows fast and he beats a lot of people, that he wants to target the champion. He says he wants that champion fight, because that's where the most money is, and that's how he can show his power in it. So the Most High purposed the nation of Israel to be raised up, to grow, so he could destroy it after that. That's how the Most High did it, man. Raise up the Egyptians and then destroy them, to show the power unto the children of Israel, the power of the Lord. Okay? So really, because Jacob, the children of Jacob, mainly Joseph, came into that land, that's why it became great, because all those blessings were there. Think about when Laban had Jacob in his country. Everything multiplied, and even Laban said, like, hey, I see that the Most High is with you, and he didn't want to let him go, because all the sheep, all the cattle, all his riches were multiplied instantly, man, from the day that Jacob came there. That's why they also build upon the bones of the slaves, man, because they know that we are the children of the Most High. We are the blessed people, man. We are the blessed people. So they build upon our bones. The slave master used to stand upon the bodies of young jakes when they were sick, because they believed that the sickness would then go into the body of the jake. Now, why did that? That means that they believed that we had healing powers. We were special people, but now they want to deny that. So going back to that grove that Abraham digged, it was a tamarisk tree. So what is that tamarisk tree? It says, I'm gonna that's the spirit, man. I didn't even read this yet, but here it says, the tamarisk tree. Tamarisk, species of genuine tamarisk, are very common trees and shrubs in the Middle East. So the word there of that bush that Hagar dropped Ishmael under to die was a shrub, which is the same thing as a tamarisk tree. But you have the smaller forms of tamarisk trees that look like bushes. So yeah, Hagar left Ishmael there to die, because she didn't have no water no more. So the last option she gave the child was to have some some fresh air. And why do I say fresh air? It says this. Let me start here. It says the tamarisk tree. The tamarisk has small scale-like leaves and small branches which give the tree pine-like appearance. During the heat of the day, the tamarisk secretes salt. That's why they also call it the salt tree. And in America they would call it tamarisk tree. But in the Middle East it's called the tamarisk tree. Okay, so it contains a lot of salt. So that means that it sucks up a lot of water. Because guess what? Salt absorbs water. That's why when you eat a lot of salt, for example, when you're on a certain diet that you don't eat carbohydrates, they gather up water. Hydrate means water. Okay, so it sucks up water. It holds water. You know, for example, rice. When your phone dropped in water, then you put it in a pan full of rice, and the rice is gonna absorb the water out of your phone. You know, you have tricks like that you can do. So carbohydrate is a supplement that is within food, of course, and absorbs water. Salt is also a supplement that absorbs water, even though it's not carbohydrate. Okay? So salt absorbs a lot of water. So it's gonna say it has pine-like appearance during, like I just said, during the heat of the day. The tamarisk secretes salt. Let me pull over real quick. It says, during the heat of the day, the tamarisk secretes salt, a process very wasteful of water. The salt dries during the night. The salt absorbs water from the air. So this tree absorbs water from the air. Now check this out. In the morning, the water evaporates, creating a sort of natural air conditioning. This cooling effect is another reason for its popularity as a shade tree. So this is a very common shade tree. So Abraham knew what he was doing, man. For his cattle, for himself, to be there and to have this natural air conditioning during the labor that he had to do by these wells, man. Don't think that Abraham just dug these wells and let them like, okay, I dug a well, that's it. No, Abraham made use of it. So he knew that when he was gonna be there, he's gonna have need of shade. He's gonna have need of rest, natural air conditioning. Even Saul, when he was present with his military, even he was speaking about under the tamarisk tree. I think it also refers to that here. 1 Samuel chapter 22 and 6. 1 Samuel chapter 22 and 6. When Saul heard that David was discovered and the men that were with him, now Saul abode in Gibeah under a tree in Ramah, having his spear in his hand, and all his servants were standing about him. Then Saul said unto his servants that stood about him, Hear now, ye Benjamites, with the son of Jesse, will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards, and make you all captains of thousands and captains of hundreds? So this is where King Saul spoke unto his men, his soldiers, and he prepared them. Now, when I was in the military, you would always seek for a cool spot, where you have your mission report or your site trap, your situation report, where you basically take a knee. It's like you take a knee and discuss certain things that need to be done. You're not gonna stand in the heat of the day, so to speak. You're not gonna stand in the sun and discuss those things. Now let's look up the word tree there. I haven't looked it up yet, but it might be the same as the tamarisk. Yeah, it's the same. You see, the word there for tree is ashal, which says tamarisk tree. Okay, so it was the same tree. You see, so the knowledge was there, man. This tree created the natural air conditioning in the air. It purified the air. So it made it more acceptable for the animals, the cattle, but also for Abraham and his children. Because there's also a thing said concerning this tree that the moment you plant it, you don't plant it for yourself. You plant it for the generations to come. Now, where did Abraham plant this tree? In the land of Canaan. Which eventually Isaac came onto those wells too with his cattle. Jacob also came to the wells with his cattle and his children and his people. Okay? Now, when we go to Isaiah chapter 27, we also read about groves. We also read about groves, which the Most High wanted those groves to be destroyed. Now, this is why it's so important to go into the meaning of words, man. Because if we read this, Isaiah chapter 27, verse 9, by this therefore shall the iniquity of Jacob be purged, and this is all the fruit of and this is all the fruit to take away his sin, when he maketh all the stones of the altar and the chalk stones that are beaten in sunder. The groves and images shall not stand. So when those things were destroyed, therewith the sin was going to be purged away. So the Most High wanted those groves to be destroyed. And in the book of Micah, the Most High also speaks about destroy the groves of the Gentiles. Now, it's not talking about a tamarisk tree there. So that's why when I was reading it, I was realizing like, hey, wait a minute. It's not talking about a grove being a place of worship of entities and idols, right? That's why I clicked it and I saw, hey, the word there is ashal, which means tamarisk tree. Now, the word of grove here is this. Grove. The Hebrew word there is asherah. Asherah goes back to Arsarat. Arsarat. Like it says here, the goddess or goddess. It says Babylonian Astarte, Canaanite goddess of the fortune of happiness, supposed to be consort of Baal, supposed to be the main demon that is under Satan. But also next to that, sacred trees or poles set up near an altar. So groves are also places where they worship entities. If you come into a forest and you see a place cleaned and swept diligently, like you're gonna be like, hey, someone lives here. That's where these entities are at, because entities keep the place clean. Okay, that's where people go when they want to receive certain powers. Like you have this cat Dynamo, when he spoke about his story about how he was mourning for his grandfather, I believe. He went into the forest for a couple of weeks. Well, what did he went to do? He went to worship entities, man. That's why he got that power. You can clearly see that the entity is ruling over him, man, and it's giving him that power. Okay, so Arsarat is really a demon, man. It's really a demon. You see, this article is about the Goetic demon, for the biblical cities, Astaroth and Astaroth. You see, Astaroth, also Astaroth or Astaroth, the great Duke of Hell in the first hierarchy, struggle with that word, with Beelzebub and Lucifer. You see, so this is the entity that they was worshiping in those groves, which is not the same thing as what Abraham was talking about. So yeah, man, I hope it was interesting. I hope it was edifying. With that, I'm going to say, Call Allah, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, Bashem Rakakadash. Shalom to the elect are there. Just pushing this word, this is the city and the truth. Shalom.